Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt truly happy? Not the fake kind, not the Instagram smile, not the quick dopamine hit that fades as fast as it came. I mean real happiness. The kind that fills your lungs. The kind that softens your shoulders. The kind that makes you feel like everything is going to be okay, even if it's not perfect. If it's hard to remember, you're not broken. You're just living inside a system that never wanted you to feel that way. Because here's the secret no one talks about. Most people aren't unhappy because of their circumstances. They're unhappy because of their conditioning. From the moment you were born, you were handed a blueprint. This is what success looks like. This is how you should behave. This is what to fear. This is what to want. This is who you're supposed to be. And if you follow it, they said, you'll find happiness at the end. So you followed it. You tried being a good student, a good friend, a good worker. A good version of what they said was acceptable. You pushed yourself. You set goals. You chased dreams that weren't even yours. You did everything right. And yet, it still feels wrong. Something inside you whispers, this can't be it. That voice, that doubt, it's the part of you that's waking up. It's the part of you that's starting to see through the illusion. Because what you're chasing isn't happiness, it's permission. Permission to feel proud, permission to slow down, permission to finally say, I'm enough. But the system never gives it to you. Because the second you feel good enough, you stop buying, you stop chasing, you stop performing for a world that profits off your pain. And that's a threat. So instead, it feeds you stories, subtle, constant, relentless. Don't slow down. Don't feel too much. Don't rest until you've earned it. You can be happy when you've done more, been more, proved more. So you keep running. Harder, faster, longer hours, more metrics, more validation. But no matter how far you go, it's never enough. Because the finish line keeps moving. Because the system is designed not to make you whole, but to keep you hungry. It shows up as your inner critic, the guilt when you take a break, the comparison when you scroll, the shame when you're not constantly improving, and worst of all, it feels normal. It feels like your own voice. But it's not, it's a loop. An inherited belief system passed down from generations of people who were also trying to survive, not thrive. And now you have a choice. You can keep running, keep playing the part, keep chasing a version of happiness that was never meant to fulfill you. Or you can stop, right here, right now, take a breath, and start asking the one question the system never wanted you to ask. What if I've been lied to about what happiness even is? Because real happiness doesn't start with goals. It doesn't start with status. It doesn't even start with healing. It starts with truth. And in this video, you're going to hear the truth clearly, maybe for the first time in your life. You'll learn the invisible architecture that shapes how you feel, think, and act, the emotional traps that keep you stuck in cycles of self-doubt, and the 3 identity-shifting breakthroughs that will give you your power back. This isn't motivation, it's liberation. Because once you see the system, you can't unsee it. Once you recognize the patterns, you can start breaking them. And once you reclaim your voice, happiness isn't something you chase. It's something you return to. This is your moment, the one where the noise stops, the masks drop, and you meet the version of yourself the world tried to bury. So before we go deeper, like this video, subscribe to the Power Playbook, because you deserve tools that actually change your life. Now, breathe in. Exhale everything you thought you had to be. We're going to build a new reality. And it starts with the truth. There's a story you've been told your entire life. A quiet, consistent voice that says, if I just get more, I'll be happy. More money, more praise, more control, more validation. And at first it sounds reasonable. Because everywhere you look, more is the message. Work harder, get promoted, level up, upgrade, ascend. We admire the grind, celebrate the hustle, measure ourselves by what we've stacked. And we never stop to ask, more of what and for who? Because here's what they never told you. You can have more and still feel empty. You can tick every box, hit every goal, get everything you ever thought you wanted, and still feel that subtle ache in your chest that whispers, why don't I feel better? That ache? That's truth knocking at your door. It's telling you you've been sold a version of happiness that was never meant to satisfy you, because it was designed to keep you moving. Never arriving, always needing just a little bit more. You finally get the raise, but now you want the title. You buy the car, now you need the lifestyle to match it. You hit the goal weight, now you're wondering why you still don't feel confident. And that's how the system keeps you chasing a horizon you'll never reach. It doesn't care if you're happy, it only needs you to be hungry. You start to believe that peace comes after progress, that joy is something you earn. That being enough is always one more achievement away. But that belief, it's the trap. Because the more you chase happiness in external milestones, the more power you give to things outside of yourself. And the truth is, no amount of more will ever heal what not enough created. That wound runs deeper. It's not about the house, or the abs, or the six-figure check. It's about the story inside you that says, I have to keep proving I deserve to feel okay. But let's flip that for a second. What if you didn't? What if joy isn't something you chase, but something you remember? Something that's already within you, buried under years of noise, pressure, shame, and silent comparison. Think about it. You weren't born feeling behind. You didn't come into this world needing to achieve your worth. You learned that. It was programmed into you, taught through repetition, rewarded with applause, and over time it became your operating system. But that system is breaking down. Because no matter how much you do, how much you earn, how much you grow, that little voice still whispers, you're not there yet. So ask yourself, what if that voice is wrong? What if there doesn't exist? What if the finish line was made up to keep you running in circles? Let's be clear, there's nothing wrong with growth, with dreaming big, with building a life you're proud of. But there is something wrong when your peace depends on performance. There is something broken when you only feel valuable when you're achieving. And there is something missing when you never let yourself rest, or breathe, or feel proud of where you already are. So today, right now, you get to make a choice. Keep running, or step off the treadmill and ask a better question. What am I chasing that I already deserve? Because real happiness doesn't scream. It doesn't demand. It doesn't dangle itself at the top of some imaginary mountain. It waits, softly, patiently, inside you. Waiting for the moment you stop trying to earn your worth and start learning how to feel it again. That's the first crack in the system. And once it breaks, everything changes. You were never taught how to feel. You were taught how to function, how to stay calm, stay quiet, hold it in, be strong. But let me ask you this. What happens to all the feelings you never expressed? The ones you swallowed to avoid judgment, the tears you held back to look put together, the pain you buried so deep you forgot it was even there. I'll tell you what happens. They don't go away. They calcify. They become tension in your jaw, tightness in your chest, fatigue that sleep can't fix, anxiety you can't explain. They become armor, and for a while that armor feels like protection. It gets you through tough conversations. It helps you perform under pressure. It keeps you standing when part of you wants to collapse. But over time, that armor becomes a prison. Because when you shut out pain, you also shut out joy. When you numb fear, you also numb love. When you disconnect from sadness, you disconnect from yourself. And that's exactly what the system wants. It wants you emotionally muted. It wants you emotionally obedient. Because a person who doesn't know how to process their own truth is easier to control. You stop trusting your gut. You stop questioning your patterns. You start outsourcing your sense of worth to performance, approval, and results. Sound familiar? You start saying things like, I don't have time to deal with this. It's not that bad. I just need to stay focused. But that's not discipline. That's dissociation. That's the silent agreement you made to survive in a world that never made space for your full emotional range. Because let's be honest, you weren't taught how to feel. You were taught how to hide. Hide your sadness so you wouldn't seem weak. Hide your anger so you wouldn't be judged. Hide your vulnerability so you wouldn't get hurt. But here's the truth. Feelings you don't face become patterns you can't break. And right now those patterns are stealing your happiness. They're robbing you of connection, of authenticity, of peace. You're not cold. You're just armored. You're not emotional. You're just conditioned. And the world convinced you that being emotional is dangerous. That feeling is failure. That softness makes you fragile. But the opposite is true. Emotional repression is what makes you brittle. It's what causes you to snap at people you love, to break down over something small, to implode when life finally pushes too hard. Because all those emotions you buried, they don't just vanish, and eventually they break something. But what if you didn't need to hold it all in? What if you could learn how to feel without falling apart? To process emotion instead of performing perfection? To take the armor off, piece by piece, and find out what's still alive underneath? That's not weakness, that's power. Because when you learn how to feel your truth without shame, you become unshakable. You stop running from yourself. You stop hiding behind productivity. You stop measuring your worth by how in control you appear to be. Instead, you heal. You integrate. You reconnect with your intuition. And for the first time in a long time, you feel whole. So no, you don't need to be stronger. You need to be softer. Not with the world, with yourself. Because real strength isn't holding it all in. Real strength is letting it out without fear. Who are you, really? Not your job, not your follower count, not your relationship status, not your personality type or your Enneagram number. You, who are you beneath the roles? Beneath the labels? Beneath the version of you the world expects? Most people never find out. Because before they ever got the chance to become themselves, they were handed a script. A quiet, invisible script called identity. And they didn't write it. It was written by parents who didn't know how to regulate their emotions, by teachers who only praised performance, by a culture that rewards conformity, by trauma that forced them to adapt fast. So you learned who to be, or more accurately, who not to be. Don't be too loud. Don't be too sensitive. Don't be too proud. Don't be too honest. Don't be too you. You learned how to shrink, how to edit yourself, how to predict the room and become whatever version would be most accepted. You became the peacekeeper, the achiever, the caretaker, the overthinker, the chameleon, and slowly the real you got buried under layers of adaptation. Not because you were fake, but because it felt safer. And over time, the mask became a mirror. You looked at yourself and thought, this must be who I am. But here's the truth. Identity isn't who you are. It's who you had to be to survive. It's a collection of emotional strategies, protective roles, unconscious patterns, and most of them were formed before you were old enough to understand what was happening. You didn't choose to be anxious. You adapted to unpredictability. You didn't choose to be a people pleaser. You learned that love had to be earned. You didn't choose to suppress your voice. You were trained to believe it didn't matter. And now as an adult, you're still carrying that script, still acting out the role, still letting old experiences define your present decisions. But that identity, it's not fixed, it's learned. And if it was learned, it can be unlearned. It starts when you realize you are not your coping mechanisms. You are not your emotional wounds. You are not the story someone else handed you. You are what's underneath it, what's left when the roles fall away, what's real when the fear is gone. And maybe that version of you has been waiting, not just to be found, but to be remembered. So here's the challenge. Start noticing the moments when you're acting from programming instead of truth. That awkward laugh you force when something hurts. That I'm fine you say when you're anything but. That habit of putting everyone else first even when you're running on empty. Those aren't random. They're echoes of the identity you were taught to wear. But you don't have to wear it anymore. You get to rewrite the script. Not in one day, not with one quote, but with one powerful decision. I'm not going to live by someone else's version of me. Because the real you, the one who speaks their truth without fear, the one who sets boundaries without guilt, the one who knows their worth isn't tied to performance, that version isn't far away. They're right beneath the surface, beneath the conditioning, beneath the noise, waiting for you to remember. You don't have to become someone new. You just have to come home to who you already are. Have you ever noticed how some days feel like reruns? Same thoughts, same habits, same triggers, same regrets. It's like you're living on repeat. Different outfit, different to-do list. Same emotional loop, and no matter how hard you try to break out, you keep getting pulled back in. That's not random. That's not weakness. That's conditioning. Because the system doesn't just influence what you think. It wires how you think. It creates a loop, a closed circuit, made of emotion, belief, behavior, result. And if you're not aware of it, you live your entire life inside that cycle. Here's how it works. You feel something, maybe it's self-doubt. You think a thought, I'm not good enough. That thought drives a behavior. You stay quiet. You don't apply. You don't show up. And that behavior creates a result. You get overlooked. which feeds back into the original emotion. See, I am not good enough. Loop complete, and it runs again, and again, and again, until you stop and ask what's actually driving this pattern. Because here's the truth. It's not just about changing what you do. It's about rewriting what you believe. If you only address the behavior without healing the belief, the loop finds a new way to recreate itself. You quit one job but feel stuck in the next. You leave one relationship but repeat the same dynamic. You start one routine but sabotage it like the last, because you never interrupted the root. That root is the belief hiding behind the emotion. I don't belong. I'm not capable. I'll never be enough. You weren't born with those beliefs. They were installed. And the system, it thrives when those beliefs stay unchallenged. Because if you believe you're broken, you'll keep consuming. If you believe you're behind, you'll keep hustling. If you believe you're not enough, you'll keep proving. That's how the loop feeds the system. And the system feeds the loop. So how do you break it? You start by bringing awareness to the trigger. You pause when you feel that emotional spark. You slow down when your body tightens. You ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? Where did I first learn this belief? Whose voice is this really? Because once you see the pattern clearly, you gain power over it. You can start to question it, challenge it, replace it. Not with fake affirmations, but with new evidence. You start showing up differently. You take small risks. You speak your truth. You honor your needs. And suddenly, the loop gets weaker. The circuit breaks. A new pattern begins. This is how change actually happens. Not by force, not by hacking your habits, but by healing the story underneath them. Because if your beliefs don't change, nothing else sticks. You'll relapse into the same emotional state because it's the only one your nervous system trusts. That's why change feels hard. Not because you're lazy, not because you're undisciplined, but because the loop you're fighting was built for survival. And your body thinks it's protecting you. But now, you're safe enough to rewrite it. You're strong enough to challenge it. You're aware enough to break it. Not all at once, but one moment at a time. One new thought, one conscious choice, one different outcome. That's how you stop living on repeat and start creating a life that's actually your own. On paper, your life might look okay. You have routines, you meet deadlines, you're keeping it together. But deep down, something feels off. Not chaotic, not dramatic, just you feel numb, disengaged, like you're moving through life on autopilot, but your soul didn't get in the car. You tell yourself it's just stress, just a phase. You'll snap out of it eventually. But you've been saying that for a while now, haven't you? Here's the truth most people never admit. You can live a functional life and still feel emotionally dead inside. Not because you're weak, not because you're ungrateful, but because you've been disconnected from yourself for so long, you forgot what aliveness feels like. And the system, it doesn't care. In fact, it benefits from your numbness. Because when you're numb, you're easy to direct, easy to market to, easy to keep in the loop. Numbness is profitable. You don't question the job. You don't rock the boat. You don't speak up about your needs because you're not sure what they even are anymore. You just go through the motions. You wake up, do what expected, collapse, scroll, sleep, repeat, and on the surface, it's all fine. But beneath it, you're starving for connection, for meaning, for feeling. But here's what they never told you. Numbness isn't a lack of emotion. It's a symptom of emotional overload. You've felt too much for too long without release. So your nervous system shuts down. It's a defense mechanism, a safety valve, a way to survive what you were never taught to process. And that shutdown becomes the norm. You stop crying, stop laughing deeply, stop noticing the beauty in little things. You become efficient, productive, predictable, but inside, you feel like a ghost in your own life. So how do you come back to yourself? Not through pressure, not through pushing harder, not through powering through, but through presence. You start reconnecting with what's real, in here, not just out there. That means sitting with silence, even when it's uncomfortable. It means checking in, not checking out. It means asking, what am I actually feeling right now? When did I stop listening to myself? What part of me have I ignored for too long? And when the answers start to surface, don't run, feel them, let them breathe, let them be heard. You don't need to fix everything overnight. You just need to feel something real. That's the beginning of healing. Not numbing your symptoms, but learning to speak the language of your own soul. You start paying attention to the little sparks. A song that moves you, a memory that hits harder than you expected, a moment of stillness that feels strangely safe. Those are breadcrumbs. Follow them, because numbness isn't the problem. It's the alarm. It's your body saying, I've been holding too much for too long, and I need you to come home now. So give yourself permission to come back, to feel without judgment, to soften without guilt, to remember that you were never meant to be a machine. You were meant to feel. That's where aliveness lives, and it's still in you, waiting. Here's the truth. Most people don't live inside their own minds. They live inside noise, notifications, tasks, expectations, constant input from the outside, but no space on the inside. And that lack of space? It's not just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. Because when your inner world is crowded with noise, you lose access to the most powerful thing you have, your awareness. And without awareness, you're not living, you're reacting, you're not choosing, you're coping, you're not growing, you're repeating. That's what the system counts on. A distracted mind is a controllable mind. A restless mind is a marketable mind. A noisy mind never has time to hear its own truth. So here's your first breakthrough. You must reclaim your inner space. And no, this doesn't mean moving to the mountains or deleting every app. It means becoming conscious of your inner environment again. Ask yourself, what am I letting in? What am I rehearsing in my head? What's taking up space that doesn't serve me anymore? Because your inner world is like a room. If it's full of clutter, you don't have room to create, or breathe, or feel peace. But you've gotten used to the clutter. You've normalized the noise. You wake up and before your feet touch the floor, you're already scrolling, already consuming, already reacting to someone else's energy, their crisis, their opinion, their feed. So where are you in all that? Where's your voice? Where's your stillness? Where's your power? Buried under the mental weight you've been carrying. And that weight, it's not just digital, it's emotional. You're carrying past conversations that should have ended years ago. Old stories that replay every time you make a mistake. Future fears that steal joy from the present moment. And you wonder why you feel exhausted, even when you haven't done anything wrong. Here's why. It's not the workload, it's the inner load. And it's time to unload it. So what does reclaiming your inner space actually look like? It starts with boundaries. Not just with people, but with your own attention. Give your nervous system breaks. Give your thoughts space to land. Give your emotions room to breathe. Silence isn't empty, it's sacred. It's where clarity lives. It's where truth speaks. It's where healing starts. Practice sitting in that space, even if it feels awkward. Even if your mind fights back. Even if your instinct is to distract yourself. Stay with it, because stillness reveals things noise never could. You'll start to notice patterns. You'll see what you've been avoiding. You'll feel what you've been pushing away. And most importantly, you'll remember who you are without the noise. That's the power of inner space. It's not about isolation, it's about reclamation. Reclaiming your right to focus, to think clearly, to feel grounded, to live inwardly, not just outwardly. You are not a content machine. You are not a reaction generator. You are a conscious being with the power to choose your energy. And that choice begins the moment you clear the space to make it. So today, give yourself 5 minutes. No phone, no task, no fixing, just space. And in that space, start listening again. By now, you've started to feel it, that quiet shift inside, the realization that you've been living reactively instead of intentionally. You're waking up, and when you wake up, you start craving something deeper, something real, grounded, repeatable, because awareness is powerful, but without a practice it fades. That's where this next breakthrough comes in. If you want to change your life, you must install a habit that puts you back in your power every single day, not once a week, not when things fall apart, not when you have time, every single day. Because you've spent years, maybe decades, reacting, getting pulled into cycles, running on autopilot. You can't just flip a switch and expect everything to change. You need a ritual, a moment that reminds your nervous system, I'm in charge now. I choose my energy today. I remember who I am. So here's the habit. Start your day with intentional presence. Just 5 minutes before the noise, before the scroll, before the world tells you what to think. how to feel, or what to chase. Sit, breathe, listen. You don't need to chant. You don't need perfect posture. You don't even need to feel spiritual. You just need to be there, with you. Because that moment, that space, it's a reset, a signal to your brain, your body, your emotions. I don't belong to the system today. I belong to myself. And yes, it will feel awkward at first. Your mind will wander. Your phone will tempt you. You'll think this isn't working. But that resistance, that's the detox. That's your nervous system letting go of addiction to stimulation. And on the other side of that resistance is clarity, control, peace, power. And you don't just feel better that day. You begin to rewire your baseline. Because what you do consistently becomes who you are. So if you start each day rushed, reactive, and plugged into noise, you stay in survival mode. But if you start each day conscious, centered, and plugged into yourself, you start building a new identity. An identity rooted in self-trust, emotional strength, and real alignment. This habit isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's your anchor, your check-in, your return to truth. So whether it's sitting in silence, journaling one page, breathing deeply with your hand on your chest, it doesn't matter. What matters is this. You start the day by remembering who you are before the world tells you who to be. Because the system is loud. But your soul is louder if you give it a chance to speak. This one habit might seem small, but it's not. It's a lifeline. A compass. A quiet rebellion against the noise. And it puts you in control, not just of your schedule, but of your state. And when you control your state, you control your story. That's what real power feels like. Most people never learn how to navigate their emotions. They learn how to suppress them, deny them, or drown in them. But no one ever taught you how to understand them, how to listen to them, how to move through them without getting stuck. So instead of emotional intelligence, you were handed emotional confusion. You feel anxious, and you try to power through. You feel sad, and you distract yourself. You feel anger, and you shove it down until it explodes at the worst possible moment. That's not emotional strength. That's emotional survival. And it's exhausting, because when you don't know how to navigate your own emotions, you become controlled by them. You get reactive, you shut down, you make decisions from fear. Or worse, you stay stuck doing nothing, waiting for the storm to pass. But here's the breakthrough. Your emotions aren't enemies to fight. They're data to decode. They're messengers. Anxiety, a signal that something needs your attention. Sadness, proof that something mattered. Anger, a boundary that's been violated. But when the system teaches you to fear those feelings, you lose access to your deepest intelligence. Because emotions don't just disrupt life, they guide it. When understood, they become your compass, your feedback system, your built-in navigation for decisions, relationships, and self-awareness. So what's the shift? You stop avoiding your emotions. You start working with them. That means checking in before reacting. It means asking questions like, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Is this emotion true or just familiar? What's the unmet need beneath this discomfort? And here's the game changer. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need the right framework. Because once you understand how to map your emotions, they stop controlling you and start guiding you. At this point, the emotional intelligence edge can help you take this further. It's a game plan to master emotions and dominate your day. Not with fake positivity, but with real tools. It shows you how to track your emotional patterns, decode your internal reactions, and shift your state without suppressing your truth. The link is in the description below. If you've been feeling overwhelmed, confused, or stuck in emotional loops, this is your lifeline. Because emotions don't have to derail your life. They can become the key to building it. Once you stop judging what you feel, you start trusting who you are. And from that trust, you build clarity, confidence, stability, power. You show up differently, speak more clearly, set stronger boundaries, and walk through life with presence, not panic. That's what emotional mastery actually looks like. Not perfection, but precision. Knowing how to move through your internal storms without getting lost in them. That's what the system never wanted you to learn. Because once you can regulate your own state, you stop relying on the chaos. You don't need the drama, the scrolling, the caffeine, the fake highs. You become your own anchor, your own calm, your own leader. And from there, you don't just survive life. You start creating it. You've probably done this before. You start strong. You get inspired. You commit to the change. You're all in. And then out of nowhere, you ghost your own growth. You skip the routine. You scroll instead of reflect. You avoid the hard conversation. You drift back into autopilot, and you don't know why. You tell yourself, I guess I wasn't ready. Maybe I'm just not disciplined enough. What's wrong with me? But here's the truth. Self-sabotage isn't failure. It's a fear response. It's your nervous system trying to protect you from unfamiliarity, from emotional exposure, from the unknown. You see, your brain isn't wired for success. It's wired for safety. And for your brain, safe means familiar. So when you try to step into a new identity, when you start acting like someone who's confident, calm, powerful, your subconscious says, wait, we don't do this. It sees your growth as a threat, and it pulls you back to what it knows. Even if what it knows is stress, overwhelm, doubt, discomfort. That's the loop we talked about earlier. And unless you know how to interrupt that pattern, you'll keep returning to it over and over again. So how do you stop self-sabotage before it starts? You catch it early, before it becomes action. Because self-sabotage doesn't start with behavior. It starts with thoughts. The delay, the excuse. The little voice that says, I'll do it later. It's not the right time. I'm not ready. That's your signal. Your warning light. Not to beat yourself up, but to pause and ask, what am I really afraid of right now? Fear of failure? Fear of being seen? Fear of success and the responsibility that comes with it? Bring it into the light. Name it. Face it. Because the moment you do, it loses its grip. You rewire the loop. You shift the energy. And you step forward anyway. You don't wait for perfect conditions. You don't negotiate with resistance. You move through it. But here's the key. Don't just push harder. Prepare smarter. Create an environment that supports your next level. Simplify your choices. Design your space to reduce friction. Use tools that keep your awareness sharp, like journaling, check-ins, breathwork. Because when sabotage is coming from your subconscious, you can't fight it with willpower alone. You need structure, support, systems that work for you, not against you. And above all, you need compassion. Self-sabotage isn't you being broken. It's your body asking for safety, so give it safety. Give it evidence that change is okay, that growth is safe now, that you're not abandoning yourself, you're upgrading. The more often you show up through resistance, the more you prove that the new you is real. And eventually, sabotage stops being the pattern and starts becoming the exception. That's how you win, not by fighting yourself, but by learning how to walk with the fear without letting it lead. This is where the work gets real, where ideas turn into practice, where awareness turns into embodiment, and it starts with this one truth. You don't need more motivation. You need a better relationship with resistance. Change doesn't stick because of one breakthrough. It sticks because of momentum. And momentum, it's emotional. Because no matter how smart your plan is, no matter how perfect your system, if your emotional state doesn't support your goals, you'll eventually fall back into old patterns. That's why people know what to do, but still don't do it. Because information without emotion doesn't create transformation. Think about it. The days when you feel clear, you move fast, you're decisive, you show up like the version of you you've been chasing. But the days you feel heavy, foggy, disconnected, everything slows down. Your habits unravel. You start doubting again. That's not because your strategy stopped working. It's because your emotional momentum dropped. So here's the question. How do you build emotional momentum that actually lasts? Not fake hype, not temporary bursts of energy, but a sustainable state that fuels your identity shift. It starts with what you feed yourself emotionally, daily. Just like your body needs food, your emotional body needs input too. So ask yourself, what am I consuming right now that fuels disconnection? Who am I listening to that keeps me stuck? What habits are reinforcing the old version of me? Because momentum isn't just built by action, it's built by alignment. You need input that matches your future self. Words, energy, environments, people. That's why what you listen to matters. What you watch, what you read, what you let play in your head when no one's watching. If the voice in your head is still rehearsing doubt, you can't build belief. If your environment is full of distractions, you can't build presence. If your habits are based in avoidance, you can't build trust. So the shift begins here. Create a system that supports your emotional state. Start your morning with a ritual that reminds you of who you're becoming, not who you were, not who you're afraid to be, who you already are when you're clear. That could be a mantra, a playlist, a cold shower, a page of journaling. It doesn't matter what it looks like. What matters is how it makes you feel. Because emotions are fuel, and the right fuel creates forward motion. You also need wins, small ones, tiny acts of self-respect, doing the hard thing before the easy thing, keeping the promise you made to yourself, finishing something instead of starting 10 things you abandon halfway through. Those wins build proof, and proof builds momentum. You stop needing external validation. You stop waiting to feel ready. You start trusting that your direction is already correct, because you're showing up for it. And finally, you need release. You can't build momentum if you're still carrying emotional weight from 5 years ago. So create rituals for letting go. Whether it's breath work, movement, writing something down and tearing it up, or just giving yourself space to cry without making it mean something's wrong. Letting go isn't weakness. It's what makes room for new energy. That's the formula. Input that aligns, wins that build proof, release that clears space, repetition that makes it real. That's emotional momentum. And once it starts rolling, it gets easier. You stop trying to stay motivated. You start building rhythm, and rhythm becomes identity. The most powerful version of you isn't the one who never falls. It's the one who knows how to get back up faster, because the emotional foundation is solid. So let this be that foundation, a system not for perfection, but for return. By now, you've probably started noticing something. You don't need more goals. You don't need more hustle. You don't need another 30-day challenge to finally become who you're meant to be. You need to respond differently to the same situations that used to control you. Because here's the truth, real change doesn't happen when life gets easier. It happens when your reactions get stronger. Your reactions shape your reality. And for most people, those reactions are automatic. Someone cuts them off, they explode. Someone criticizes them, they spiral. Plans change, they panic. They feel discomfort, they shut down. Why? Because their nervous system never learned how to pause, only how to protect. And that protection, the snapback, the shutdown, the overreaction, that's not personality. That's programming. But here's the breakthrough. Your default reactions aren't destiny. They're patterns. And patterns can be reprogrammed. It starts with a simple shift. Pause before you react. It sounds small, but that pause is the moment everything changes. It's the space between stimulus and response, between emotion and behavior, between being controlled and being in control. In that moment you ask, is this emotion mine or is it inherited? Is this response aligned or just familiar? Is this reaction going to move me forward or take me back? And that awareness, it rewires you, because the brain learns through repetition and response. Every time you choose a new way to respond, you carve a new neural path. Instead of lashing out, you breathe. Instead of withdrawing, you stay present. Instead of numbing, you get curious. And over time, those choices become your new automatic. That's the foundation of emotional mastery. Not avoiding discomfort, but choosing how to move through it with power. Let's be real. Life won't stop testing you. People will still trigger you. Situations will still disappoint you. Plans will still fall apart. But if your internal response changes, your experience of those things changes too. You become resilient, not because life stopped hurting, but because you stopped breaking every time it did. You learned how to ride the wave instead of getting pulled under. This isn't about being calm all the time. It's about becoming the kind of person who knows, even when I'm overwhelmed, I don't abandon myself. Even when I'm afraid, I don't run from the moment. Even when it's hard, I respond with clarity, not chaos. So how do you train that? You practice in the small moments, because the small reactions are the ones that create your state. Pause when your plans change. Pause when someone says something that hits a nerve. Pause when the old feeling rises up, and then choose again. That new choice? It's a vote for the next version of you. You may not feel different overnight, but with every new response, you're reshaping the way your system processes life. That's how you stop being a reactor and start being a creator. Not just of your mindset, but of your entire experience. This is the final piece of implementation. Not control, not force, not perfection. Choice, the power to pause, the power to choose, the power to rewrite what happens next. Let's be honest. You've spent most of your life in survival mode. Not because you're weak, but because no one ever taught you how to live any other way. You were taught how to get by, how to keep up, how to play it safe, how to manage expectations and minimize risk. You were trained to be efficient, responsible, realistic, and in the process, you forgot how to feel alive. Because here's what survival mode doesn't give you: peace, joy, expansion, purpose. Survival mode keeps you chasing the next task, the next problem, the next what if. And slowly, without realizing it, you start believing that stress is normal, that burnout is just part of being an adult, that numbness is fine, but that's not living. That's enduring, and you weren't built just to endure. You were built to grow, to lead, to create, to connect, to feel, deeply, wildly, bravely. There's a version of you underneath the tiredness, underneath the programming, underneath the survival patterns that say, just get through it. And that version of you, the one who's fully awake, they're not scared of life, they're ready for it. But they've been waiting for you to stop settling, waiting for you to stop shrinking, waiting for you to stop calling exhaustion grind culture and disconnection discipline. Because the system will reward you for surviving. It'll give you likes, promotions, applause, but you'll still feel hollow. Because deep down you know you were meant for more than keeping it together. You were meant to come alive. So what does that look like? It looks like letting yourself want again. Not because you're broken, but because you're becoming. It looks like setting boundaries, not out of anger, but out of love for your energy. It looks like choosing rest without guilt, joy without explanation, presence without apology. You are not behind. You are not off track. You are not too late. You are right on time to start living differently, to breathe deeper, to speak louder, to love harder, to show up like your life actually matters, because it does. And no, it won't be perfect. You'll still fall, still doubt, still get tempted to slide back into the numb comfort of survival. But every time you rise again, you're building the proof that you're no longer that version of you who needed to shrink. You are rising, evolving, activating, and the world will feel it. So from this moment forward, make yourself a promise. I will not survive my life. I will live it with everything I've got, because the fire inside you isn't gone. It's just been waiting for permission. This is it. There comes a moment in every life where the world stops handing you answers and starts asking you questions, not surface-level ones, not what do you want to do with your life, or where do you see yourself in 5 years. No, I'm talking about deeper questions, soul questions. Are you showing up like the person you were born to be, or the person you were trained to become? Are you living your truth, or performing someone else's expectations? Are you hiding behind the story of someday, or stepping into the story of now? These questions don't go away. They get louder with time. They follow you through every promotion, every relationship, every self-help video, every quiet night when the distractions run out, and all you can hear is your own heartbeat. That's what this moment is. A confrontation, not with the world, not with your past, but with you. Because your life right now is asking for more. Not more effort, not more pressure, not more perfection, more presence, more courage, more alignment, more truth. And that truth, it's been whispering for years. But now, it's not whispering anymore. It's roaring. It's saying no more waiting, no more shrinking, no more becoming a master at surviving a life that doesn't light you up. Because let's be honest, you've made it through things you thought would break you. You've held yourself together when no one saw. You've smiled through storms. You've built from nothing. You've endured what others didn't even notice. And yet, here you are, still doubting, still hesitating, still asking for permission to step into a life that is already yours. But here's what you need to understand. You don't need a sign. This is the sign. You don't need a breakthrough moment. You are the breakthrough waiting to be activated. Because this life, it's yours, and it's running. Every day you wait is a day you'll never get back. Every dream you delay becomes a weight. Every truth you silence becomes a scar. But the moment you decide to show up fully, to move boldly, to speak clearly, act powerfully, and own your presence, everything changes. Not because the world gets easier, but because you get stronger. You stop flinching at discomfort. You stop apologizing for your truth. You stop asking, "Can I do this?" and start declaring, "I'm already doing it." That's what stepping up feels like. It's not loud at first. It's not glamorous. It's not fireworks. It's quiet. It's sacred. It's internal. A shift in posture. A change in energy. A line in the sand that says, "From this point forward, I will not abandon myself to fit into places I've outgrown." So what does that mean practically? It means saying no to what drains you. It means choosing growth over comfort. It means walking away from roles, routines, even relationships that were built around a smaller version of you. It means walking toward discomfort, toward the dream, toward the responsibility that comes with owning your life. Because here's the truth, there is no version of you that steps into greatness without first stepping through fear. But fear isn't the end of the path, it's the gateway. And on the other side, clarity, alignment, impact, peace. Not because everything is easy, but because you're no longer at war with yourself. This world doesn't need another perfectly branded, emotionally shut down adult chasing approval. It needs you, awake, activated, accountable, fully alive. So step up, not because you've figured it all out, but because you're done sitting it all out. This isn't about becoming someone new. This is about becoming who you were before the world told you to shrink. And the world, it'll adjust. You've felt the shift. The awareness is here. The fire is lit. But now comes the part that stops most people. Where do I even start? Because when you're waking up after years, maybe decades of running the old program, the idea of transformation feels massive. You look at who you want to become, how far you still feel from that person, and this quiet voice creeps in. It's too much. You're behind. You should already be further. But that voice, it's not your truth. It's your fear disguised as logic. Because the truth is, you are not behind. You are not late. You are right on time for the life you're meant to build. And every great transformation begins the same way. Small steps, done with clarity, repeated with intent. So if you're just getting started, here's what matters most. 1. Don't try to fix everything at once. That energy, that burn it all down and rebuild from scratch mentality, it's tempting. It feels productive, but it burns out fast. Why? Because transformation isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. Start with one domain of your life, not all of them, just one. Maybe it's your emotional health. Maybe it's your physical body. Maybe it's your schedule, your environment, your mindset. Pick the one that's bleeding the most energy and start there. Win small. Build trust with yourself again and let that proof compound. 2. Build your identity first, then your habits. Most people try to change what they do without changing who they believe they are. They start a morning routine but still identify as someone who always falls off. They sign up for a course but still feel like an imposter every time they try to grow. And eventually, they sabotage the progress because it doesn't feel like it belongs to them. So flip it. Start asking, who do I want to become? What would that version of me think, feel, and do today? Then act from that identity, not from guilt, not from panic, from alignment. Every action you take is a vote for the future you. So cast votes that count. 3. Make the invisible visible. Write things down, your goals, your emotional triggers, the patterns you're breaking, the boundaries you're building. Because until it's on paper, it's just noise in your head. And noise doesn't create clarity, it creates confusion. You don't need a 50-tab productivity system. You just need somewhere to put your truth. A notebook, a Google Doc, a note in your phone. Make it real, make it visual, make it personal. Because clarity isn't found, it's created. 4. Start a check-in ritual. Every day, yes, every day, ask yourself, what energy am I carrying right now? What do I need to release? What's one thing I can do today to move forward with intention? It doesn't have to take an hour. Even 5 minutes of self-connection can change your entire trajectory. This is how you stop living reactively. This is how you reclaim authorship. You don't need a life overhaul. You need to build a foundation, one step, one win, one real moment at a time. And when the voice comes up again, the one that says, "You're too late, this is too big, what if you fail again?" Pause and say this instead, This time, I'm not rushing, I'm rebuilding. From truth, from presence, from who I really am. Because there's nothing more powerful than someone who moves with intention, even if the steps are small. You've already started. You've done the work. You've shifted your mindset. Maybe you've built new habits, set boundaries, even had some big wins. But now, you're stuck. Not at the beginning, not at rock bottom, but somewhere in the middle. That weird quiet place where nothing is obviously wrong, but nothing feels quite right. You're not crashing, but you're not expanding either. Welcome to the plateau. And this is where most people give up. Because no one prepares you for this part of the journey. The in-between, where your old life no longer fits, but the new one hasn't fully formed. It feels like limbo, like you're grinding without growth, like all your work should have gotten you further by now. And that frustration, that heaviness, it's not proof that you're failing, it's proof that you're evolving. Because the plateau isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's the part where the universe asks, can you keep showing up even when the excitement fades? Can you keep choosing growth when no one is clapping? Can you keep your vision alive without needing constant validation? That's what separates people who change their lives from people who just visit change for a little while. So if you're stuck in the middle, here's what to do. 1. Revisit your why and deepen it. Surface-level reasons stop working at this level. You can't keep moving forward just to feel better or prove a point. You need a deeper anchor, a reason that lives in your values, not your ego. Ask yourself, what kind of legacy am I building with my actions? What version of me will look back on this moment and say, thank you for not quitting? Make it personal, make it emotional, make it yours. 2. Audit your systems, not your worth. You're not broken. You're just in a part of the journey that requires adjustment. So instead of spiraling into self-doubt, get curious. What routines have started to go numb? What triggers keep showing up again and again? What used to work that no longer fits where I'm going? Growth isn't about never getting stuck. It's about learning how to realign quickly, without shaming yourself. This is the work. 3. Add challenge back in. Sometimes the plateau isn't emotional. It's neurological. You've outgrown your current systems. Your brain is bored, your body is coasting. So what's something that stretches you again? A bold conversation, a deeper level of vulnerability, a new commitment that scares you a little in a good way. Because comfort isn't always healing. Sometimes it's stagnation wearing a disguise. 4. Shift focus from outcomes to embodiment. Ask yourself daily, am I acting like the version of me I'm becoming, or just waiting for results? You don't have to feel confident to move like someone who is. You don't have to have all the answers to speak like someone who trusts themselves. When you focus on embodying the energy you want to live in, results catch up. Identity drives outcome, not the other way around. 5. Stop expecting fireworks. Sometimes the biggest shifts feel like silence. Not because nothing's happening, but because something is stabilizing. Your nervous system is adjusting to a new normal. Your baseline is rising. Your tolerance for truth is expanding. That can feel boring, but boring is often where healing becomes real. Don't confuse stillness with stagnation. You're not stuck, you're settling in. Let yourself trust that. Because if you're in the middle, it means you're in motion. And momentum isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers, keep going, you're closer than you think. If you've made it this far, you're not dabbling, you're not testing the waters, you're not just trying to change, you're ready to go all in. But here's the truth no one tells you. Going all in isn't about hustle. It's not about obsession. It's not about grinding until you break. It's about alignment. It's about becoming so clear on who you are, what you stand for, and what you're no longer available for, that the world has no choice but to adjust. When you go all in, you stop asking, what if I fail? You start asking, what happens if I never try? Because here's the real risk. Not that you'll fall, but that you'll live your whole life wondering what could have been. So what does all in look like? It's not dramatic. It's not impulsive. It's not about posting a new version of yourself online for validation. It's quiet. It's internal. It's sacred. And it's made of 3 things. 1. Total clarity. You get radically honest about who you want to become, not who your ego wants to impress, not who your childhood wounds are trying to protect, but the real you. Ask yourself, if no one judged me, doubted me, or abandoned me, who would I become next? Then write it down. Describe them in detail. What do they tolerate? What do they no longer explain? How do they walk into rooms? How do they lead? How do they rest? That's your blueprint, not your goal, your standard. 2. Full energetic commitment. This isn't about doing more. It's about aligning everything. Your time, your language, your environment, your decisions. You stop spending energy on what doesn't move the needle. You stop giving emotional real estate to people who drain you. You stop letting your future self be a fantasy, and you start acting like they're already in the room. Because they are. They're just waiting for you to show up consistently. That's what full commitment means. You stop making it optional. It's not, I'll try. It's, I've already decided. 3. Non-negotiable integrity. This is where most people fall off. They show up until they get tired. They commit until it gets uncomfortable. They're disciplined until no one's watching. But all in means your actions match your values. Even when no one's looking, you hold yourself to your word, not because you're afraid of failure, but because your future self is watching. And they don't trust what you say, they trust what you do. So when you say, I'm not going back to the old version of me, mean it, draw the line, burn the exit plan, become unavailable for the habits, people, thoughts, and energy that pull you back. Because that old version of you, the one who overthought everything, who shrank to stay liked, who procrastinated on their own potential, they're gone. Not because you hated them, but because you outgrew them. And now it's time to act like it. So here's the challenge. For the next 30 days, move like the future version of you is already real. Think like them, speak like them, make decisions like them. Not because you're pretending, but because you're remembering. They've always been inside you. And going all in doesn't create them. It simply reveals them. Close your eyes for a second and take a breath. Now imagine this. You wake up, no dread, no anxiety, no weight pulling you back into loops you thought you'd never break. There's a stillness, a calm in your chest that didn't used to be there. Your first thought isn't panic, it's clarity. You feel solid, rooted, aligned. Your feet hit the floor, and you move like someone who trusts themselves. Not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer at war with yourself. You don't overthink the morning. You don't scramble to catch up on a life you were never behind in. You move with intention, with rhythm, with power that's quiet but unmistakable. You check your phone, not for distraction, but to lead, to create, to contribute something real. And the energy you used to waste chasing approval, it's now focused, sharpened, pointed directly at the vision you're building, the legacy you've chosen to live on purpose. You speak differently now. You no longer apologize for your truth. You no longer soften your boundaries to be more palatable. You don't shrink. Because you've remembered, there's nothing small about your presence, and there never was. In conversations, you're not calculating how to be liked. You're listening, you're grounded, you're leading with truth, not performance. And when discomfort shows up, you don't flinch. You breathe, you meet it. Because the old version of you used to run, used to hide, used to numb and distract and delay. But not this you. This version feels. This version holds their ground. This version knows that pain is not the enemy. It's the signal, the doorway. And now, you walk through that door every time. You move through the world like someone who belongs. Not because you're perfect, but because you finally stopped asking for permission to take up space. You rest when you need to, without guilt. You say no when you need to, without explaining. You pursue what lights you up, not because it's safe, but because it's yours. And in the mirror, you no longer see a version of yourself that needs fixing. You see someone in process, but with purpose. You're no longer waiting to feel worthy. You're walking in it. Every decision, every breath, every moment from here forward. And the people around you, they feel it. Some will rise with you, some won't. That's okay, because you're no longer performing for proximity. You're creating a life so rich, so grounded, so real, that only the aligned can stay. This is who you've been becoming all along. You didn't become someone new. You became you again. So when life tests you, and it will, you won't beg for peace. You'll remember where it lives, in your breath, in your body, in your truth. This is the version of you that builds, that leads, that heals, that stops waiting and starts living. So take a final breath. Picture them. And now, say this in your mind or out loud if you're ready. I'm no longer chasing. I'm here, and I'm not leaving myself again. This isn't motivation anymore. This is integration. Everything you've heard, felt, and remembered on this journey, it's not just content, it's not just a good idea, it's your new operating system. But to keep it alive, you have to claim it. Because here's the thing about breakthroughs. They don't last unless you decide they do. It's easy to slip back, to forget, to treat this moment like a high you'll lose in a few days. But what if you didn't? What if this wasn't another temporary shift, but the final time you ever needed to start over? You don't need to get hyped again. You don't need another kickstart. You need to lock this in deep. That starts with trust. Not in the world, not in a strategy, not even in me, in you. Trust that your soul knows the way. Trust that you didn't come this far by accident. Trust that the version of you who listened this far isn't here for a phase. They're here for a future. So take everything we've uncovered, the emotional loops, the unconscious roles, the numbness, the breakthroughs, the rituals, the action steps, the identity shift, and bring them inward. Don't let them float around as ideas. Turn them into non-negotiables, because you don't rise by remembering once. You rise by remembering daily. So here's how you lock it in. 1. Set your new baseline. You've felt the future. You've visualized the new you. Now ask, what is no longer acceptable for me? Not in a harsh way, in a powerful way. Set standards for your thoughts, your energy, your relationships, your choices. Write them down, review them every morning. Let them become your compass. 2. Build a ritual of reconnection. You don't need 2-hour routines. You need moments that remind you who you are. A mantra, a breathwork practice, a journaling prompt, a morning movement, a 5-minute pause before checking your phone. Whatever keeps you in alignment, make it daily. Not because you should, but because this version of you is worth staying connected to. 3. Create from this energy. Don't just get through your day. Create from your new identity. Send the message. Make the call. Start the project. Set the boundary. Say the thing you've been avoiding. Not someday, now. Because the longer you wait, the easier it is to fall back asleep. But you're not going to do that this time. Why? Because now you know the cost of staying small, of shrinking, of hiding behind habits that don't match who you really are. You've felt the gap. You've tasted the truth. And you're not going back. So here's your final command. I lock this in. This is who I am now. And I will move from this energy until it becomes unshakable. You're not waiting to be ready. You're not asking for permission. You're not chasing clarity. You're moving like someone who's already claimed it, because you have. This is yours now. This is the moment where most people go back to normal. They click off. They forget. They move on to the next video, the next distraction, the next escape. They stay watchers, always watching other people live the life they say they want. Watching people grow, watching people build, watching people rise. And for a while it feels safe, comfortable, easy. But then the voice comes back, that quiet ache that says, you're not supposed to be a spectator, because you know it. Somewhere deep in your nervous system, you know you were never meant to just survive, to numb out, to repeat the same day 10,000 times and call it a life. You were born to build, to create, to disrupt, to lead, to love, to live, fully, unapologetically, now. So here's the final push. Look at your life, not with shame, with honesty. What are you still tolerating? What parts of your truth are you still hiding? What actions have you been avoiding because the old version of you is still running the script? You've come too far to let them drive now. You've seen the system. You've dismantled the myths. You've activated the fire. You've felt the version of you that's been waiting to take the lead. So now it's not about knowing more. It's about choosing differently. And that choice, it happens now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when things calm down. Right now, in the next decision you make, in the next message you send, in the next thought you interrupt, in the next action you take from alignment, not fear. That's the fork in the road. Will you go back to watching? Or will you start building? Not a perfect life, not a filtered highlight reel, a real one. Messy, honest, alive, built from intention, sustained by integrity, driven by the energy you've been activating this entire time. You're ready, not because you've arrived, but because you've awakened. And now, Now the only thing left is this. Will you keep watching other people live your dream or start building it? Comment your breakthrough below, like if this hit home, and subscribe to the Power Playbook because your journey starts now. This is your life, and it's not waiting, so neither should you. Stand up, breathe in, and begin, because the next version of you won't be built by chance. It'll be built by choice.